Hi, and welcome to Full Circle. I'm Emily Wilmson, and we're here today to talk about the Georgetown University Energy Prize. And I have a couple of guests with me. I have John Phelan, who's our Energy Services Manager with Fort Collins Utilities. Welcome, John.
Great to be here. Thanks, Emily.
And I have Katie Bigner, who's an environmental planner with the Department of Environmental Services. Welcome, Katie.
Great, thanks.
So tell me, first of all, what is the Georgetown University Energy Prize? I would think most people would not have heard of this. What are we talking about?
Georgetown University is hosting a multi-year competition to foster innovation for energy efficiency. It follows a long history of using prize money to foster innovations for different problems that have occurred throughout history. We found an example of Napoleon Bonaparte, who in 1775 hosted a prize to foster the innovation of canned foods, and that resulted in an innovation. So things have moved forward through history for that, and Georgetown is offering this prize to 50 communities across the country to help advance energy efficiency and energy savings in communities.
Okay, so
I think one of the more exciting things is there's $5 million at stake. So the opportunity is for one community to sort of walk away with that grand prize, and kind of unlike we're kind of used to grant proposals where you write up exactly what you're going to do ahead of time and try to get some funding. And this kind of turns that around and says, what are the innovative ideas? What are the ways that you can engage your community? And yet, you know, as an engineer, I was impressed with the way they structured the program. It's measured results. We actually have to accomplish the savings and then tell them how we did it, and compete with other communities and kind of get that competitive spirit going.
now this is something the city of Fort Collins does really well anyway, which is reducing energy consumption, right? We're not just discovering this. We've been good at it for a while. Is that right?
That's true. We've had energy efficiency, energy conservation seems really like a core value in the community, and it's been expressed in policies around energy use, climate action, water conservation, things of that nature that kind of embody that behavioral components of saving our resources.
So what are some of the energy saving programs that we are doing right now? I mean, I've heard a little bit about solar. We have a solar program. We have some general conservation programs, educating people about turning down their electricity or their natural gas. What is it? I mean, which I know Excel provides, not the city, but tell us a little bit about some of those programs.
You know, the program's history really started with more of an educational focus, and those go back to the early 1980s. And then as our policies and programs became more formalized, like a lot of other utilities, we're actually buying that energy savings. So our rebate programs, whether that be for consumer products or improving insulation or upgrading a furnace in your house, those rebates are designed to help capture that energy savings and address the barriers that people face with understanding their choices and options, and in some cases the higher cost of a more efficient equipment choice.
Okay, great. And so, Katie, I know you're running the project. How did you pull together this team that's working on this at the city? Tell me a little bit about, it's not just environmental services, it's also utilities. I mean, how are we all working together on this prize?
So the prize focuses on both electricity and natural gas use. It also focuses on the sectors which include residential homes, municipal facilities, and then K through 12 education. So there's an opportunity to partner with Poudre School District to provide some additional education and some focus on energy efficiency, so those students are able to learn more about how our energy systems work, how to use energy wisely, and then be able to take those savings and knowledge home to their own families. And then we are also seeking additional partners. So this is really more of a community-based initiative, which we think will be much stronger in the long term to accomplishing the goal of not only advancing innovation and different community engagement endeavors throughout the community.
So it's not just, from what I know about the Georgetown Prize, it's not just a matter of reducing our energy consumption, and it's over the next 2 years, right?
Correct.
So they let us know in 2017 whether we're a finalist. But what is it that we have to do some community outreach, right? What is the there's some innovation required there. What is that?
So we're going to try a few different things differently in terms of how we both market energy efficiency programs as well as how we engage citizens. We're going to have a specific website that's dedicated to providing some different ways of saving energy to residents. We're going to increase the focus on education at Poudre School District, like I mentioned. And then we're also going to try a few different pilots, mostly related to an eco-leader type model where we have some champions within communities, and they use their social network basically to advance energy efficiency. And then also look at some alternative financing mechanisms for folks to do upgrades in their own homes.
Okay, great. And is that the on-bill financing program that currently exists at the city? Talk a little bit about that and how that could fit into the Georgetown Prize. And I assume that's you, John.
It is. Yeah. I think of that as a tool in the toolbox. You know, for any household or home, there's a lot of choices to be made on how you might do upgrades in your house, the choices you make when you buy appliances, when you put in lighting, and as you sort of live in your house and run all those things. And on-bill financing is one tool to really help facilitate investment in upgrades in homes from an energy standpoint. And we think it could be combined with other pieces of the puzzle, helping people understand what the best choices they have for improving their home. That can be a really effective combination.
Okay, so just so people really understand, so on-bill financing, you're taking out a loan to finance some of these improvements and repaying that with the savings you get, or how does that work exactly?
Fundamentally, you said that's perfect.
Okay.
So you're now an expert in on-bill financing.
So yeah, sure.
So we have the ability to provide a loan up to $15,000, and then it's repaid directly on the utility bill along with the other services like electricity and water. And the intent is that the savings on the utility bills largely offsets that loan payment itself. And depending exactly what you choose to do on your house, that can fully offset it or be certainly a part of it.
Okay. And do we have numbers yet about how many people are taking advantage of that, or any sort of?
We've had on the order of about 30 so far, so
okay.
It's been a little slow. We've just made some changes with City Council last week and in the coming weeks that are going to make it a more attractive offer, a little bit more flexibility and ease of qualification and simpler paperwork, things like that. And again, in combination with an energy audit and some coaching on what are the options for a particular house, it's a great choice.
Okay, great. So what motivates people to actually turn down their electricity, turn down their heat, to make changes in their lives when it comes to energy conservation? I mean, what motivates you guys? Let's give people some real examples of.
I have an example. I have a house that was built in 1963 in Midtown, and I had an audit done a couple years ago, and it was described as leaky, which I would agree with. That it was has a
hopefully not water leaky.
No, just energy and heat, really. So for us, the choice really came down to comfort. We had a room that was had some wild variations in temperature. I knew it was not the most efficient use of heating and cooling, but we just had insulation blown into the cathedral ceilings last week, actually, and it's made a huge difference. There's a much more comfortable environment. I'm really looking forward to see what the savings are, but for us it was it was an easy choice in terms of comfort. It made a big difference.
Yeah, that's great example. What about you?
I think that's a very good example, and oftentimes the same types of actions we might take to save energy improves the comfort in your house, improve the sound quality in your house. They make it quieter. They make it increase the value of the house. So those are oftentimes as motivating, if not more so, than saving a few dollars a month on your utility bill. There's a health and safety component as well, in that when we go through, for example, one of our audit processes, we're looking for conditions that might cause bad or poor indoor air quality, or health and safety around the natural gas appliances like your water heater in your house. So that can also be a big motivator. I think it's important to note that we don't expect people to sacrifice, the thought of Jimmy Carter putting a sweater on and saying we all need to suffer a little bit for the cause is not really the message we're after. Mm-hmm. I think it's a combination of efficiency, getting the most out of whatever resource we're using, perhaps an element of not wasting. So as simple as when you leave that room and you go somewhere else in the house, turning off the light, it's the most common sense thing in the world. And yet we've all, I know with my own family and teenagers, reminding them to not have all the lights on and throughout the entire house when everybody's in one room. So I think that message resonates with a lot of people as well. Just use what you need and don't go beyond that. And there's a benefit for us personally, as well as a benefit for the community and a benefit for, the environment and globe in general.
Yeah, so that makes me think a question I was going to ask you is how does it benefit the whole community if Katie puts insulation in her attic and, you're turning off the light, your teenagers are turning off the lights? How does it ultimately help? When we all take those actions, how does that ultimately help our community? Why should we care so much about energy savings?
You're full of great questions. So, I think two things come to my mind, and Katie may have some other additional comments. But first is our community energy bill. Though, do we really value spending money on electricity, water, natural gas, things like that? What we value is the service we get out of it. So if we can live in a comfortable house, spend less money on that as a community, those small dollars add up to quite a bit. And then those dollars are spent elsewhere in our community on things that have generally more value to people, whether that's going out to dinner or paying other bills that you may need for your family. So that's one piece. The second is sort of our environmental consciousness and commitment as a community. A lot of our resources currently come from fossil fuels, and reducing that has a ripple effect all the way from extraction from the earth to the gases that get left in the atmosphere. Every little bit contributes to that, and we all play a role in reducing those.
Anything to add to that?
No, that was very well said.
I know, he does a good job. So, one thing maybe you could talk about briefly, Katie, we're now updating the Climate Action Plan, and so how does Georgetown kind of fit into that big picture? Give us a big overview.
So the energy price competition is really what I would view as a strategy for helping accomplish those goals. It's something that we already have goals around, and it really offers an opportunity for the community focus really on energy efficiency, get the energy moving around it, and then, if we win, if the $5 million prize, that goes back into the community for energy efficiency. So it offers a really great opportunity to build momentum in this community, and then the benefit, obviously, of $5 million coming in is huge.
Yeah, and that would go to the three of us, right?
No.
So what $5 million comes in, let's say we win in 2017, what happens to that money? How do we decide?
Well, we haven't decided, okay. So it's still very early in the competition, and we don't have a developed group of projects to consider, but what we'd like to do is really let the community decide what that is. So we will be seeking input for the community likely next year to talk about, how would you spend $5 million? It does have to be used for energy efficiency and community benefit, but that offers, a lot of, wide-ranging groups of projects that could really, advance our greenhouse gas achievements in the community, as well as really helping either low-income folks or other groups that are, really could use that energy savings as well as the money in their, pocket at the end of the month.
Yeah, great. So what are our chances? How good are we at this?
I think they're pretty good. It's certainly, even starting with 1 out of 50, the odds are are probably much better than your average lottery ticket or going to Las Vegas
true.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
I suppose.
And we have a lot of alignment within our community in terms of programs in place and things that we're kind of poised to want to try anyway that will help contribute to the prize. I think our community is very representative, and once we get into the finals, the energy savings component becomes less important, and it becomes more important describing the replicability and the innovation and the education tools. And so that's where our partnerships with Poudre School District and Colorado State University really manifest in terms of the scoring and the prize and things of that nature. So I think we got a pretty good chance.
Yeah. So, and there's other cities in Colorado. Who else is participating?
So the community of Brighton and the city of Aspen are also our competitors.
Okay.
So there's a wide range of cities across the country that are competing, some that are similar to us, others that are, like Aspen's pretty small, it's about 5,500 people, and the competition communities can be as large as 250,000. So it's a wide cross-section of communities, but I think that adds to the richness of this type of competition because there's communities. I remember a community John and I went to a launch in April in DC at Georgetown, and they talked to one of the communities had a 70% rental rate, and how do you address those challenges with the split incentive between both renters and owners to get efficiencies. So there's a lot of really interesting communities that are competing for a wide range of reasons, but I think we have a really good chance based on our competitors.
Right.
And ultimately the goal is to take all the lessons learned from all these different communities and be able to have a toolkit that you could sort of say, well, if this is the challenge you face, be it rental housing or a large student population that we have here, what strategies worked across the country. So we're able to pull those together. And so in that sense, everybody's going to benefit from the successes of the different communities in individual areas.
So in other words, a best practices kind of document that they can produce after that. Is that why Georgetown is into this? I mean, what is it they're
actually viewing it as a research project. So their plan is to, granted a community wins, that's huge, but they're really using it as a way to transfer this information and these good practices to the rest of the country, which I think is really exciting to be able to be part of that and help the things that we try here, whether they are wildly successful or not so much, it's still an ability to be in a leadership role and really help other communities advance around energy efficiency.
We might learn something on top of that.
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of fun that we want to have in this as well. And, I live and breathe, energy efficiency and conservation and renewables. And generally, they're not very exciting topics for most people. And to the extent that we can make it by bringing the competitive element in there and whether you're competing against your neighbors, your friends, or different communities, and make it more of a game and something that's got some fun to it.
Yeah.
Really is a great opportunity. So, that's a nice segue to our campaign, which is not called the Georgetown University Energy Prize. It's
Lose a Watt.
Okay. So loseawatt.com is our website.
Yes.
Okay, and what kind of information can people find there? So
they'll be able to find a wide range of tips in terms of how they can save energy. There's also links to the Fort Collins Utilities website for a lot of information about the programs, rebates, incentives, how to get a home efficiency audit, on-bill financing, which we talked about earlier. You can get more information about Georgetown Prize, as well as some information from Excel on rebates for their particular programs as well. So there's a pretty abundant amount of information on it. Yeah, it's a great resource for people just if they're looking for ideas to say, well, I don't know where to start, or I already turned my lights off. My teenagers are better than John's at turning off the lights. So it's a great place to just go. And what about the folks who have done more, are more advanced? There's some people in our community who do an amazing job, have done all the things that we could think of. Are there things there too for them to do more complicated types of energy savings?
I think within sort of pick any particular area of your house, whether it's sort of the the outside shell and walls and windows, or whether it's your clothes washer and how you do that. There's kind of beginner, intermediate, and advanced things that you might be able to do in each of those areas. And ultimately, we want to also have the ability to tell people, if you've done all of these things, then go help somebody else who hasn't done them, and sort of get the community working with each other to advance, because there's undoubtedly somebody that may not know what to do that they know, and sort of pay it forward in that sense.
Okay, and that's kind of the eco-leader thing you were talking about earlier.
It's one opportunity.
Okay, that's great. So there's going to be great ways for people to get involved, and they should visit our website, loseawatt.com. Looks like we need to probably wrap up, so any closing thoughts about how we're going to win this $5 million from either one of you?
We're going to win it by everybody doing a little bit. It's remarkable how that adds up across the board. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Any thoughts from you, Katie, before we close? All right.
Well
that's
said.
good. All right. Well, thank you, Katie Bigner,
Thank you.
and thank you, John Phelan, and we'll see you next time on Full Circle.